So welcome to chapter 6 revision video, that is audit documentation. It is SC 230 audit documentation. So definition of audit documentation is simple. Audit documentation refers to the record of AP, AE and C. Okay, so audit procedures performed, audit evidence obtained, and conclusion the auditor has reached. So it is also called as at some point it is also called as working papers or work papers. Okay, simple. The definition of audit is it refers to the record of audit procedure performed, audit evidence obtained, and conclusions the auditor has reached. Next, objective of the auditor, same thing, to obtain sufficient and appropriate audit evidence on the basis for audit report, and the evidence that the auditor was planned and performed in accordance with SA and applicable FRF. Okay, applicable legal and regulatory requirement. And the nature of audit documentation, though this is also called as primary purpose. The first one is evidence that the auditor basis for the conclusion out of the achievement of the overall objective of the auditor. Simple, evidence provides. So audit documentation provides the evidence that of the auditor's basis for a conclusion about the achievement of the overall objectives of the auditor. Second one, same thing, has this evidence that the audit was planned and performed in accordance with SA and applicable legal and regulatory requirement. So this purpose of audit, this is important. There is a direct question simply. So the first purpose is assisting the engagement team to plan and perform the audit. Next, assisting the members to direct and supervise the audit work and discharge their review responsibilities, and enabling the engagement team to be accountable for its work. Next, retaining the record of matters continuing significance to future audit. Next, enabling the conduct of QRC, quality control review and inspection in according to SQC, and enabling the conduct of external inspection in accordance with applicable legal, regulatory or other requirement. So there are 6 points. Remember, first one is it assists the engagement team to plan and perform the audit. Next is assists the engagement team to direct, supervise and review the responsibilities. Then enabling the audit team to be accountable for its work. 3 types. Next second part is quality review. So it enables the conductor of quality review and inspection according to SQC1, and it conduct the external display in accordance with applicable legal and regulatory requirement. And the next one, retaining the record for continuing significance to the future audits. Then purpose. Next, form, context and extent of audit documentation. So auditor shall prepare the audit documentation that it is sufficient to enable the experienced auditor to understand the nature, timing and extent of audit procedure, the results of audit procedures performed and audit evidence obtained, and the significant matters arising during the audit and the conclusion reached thereon, and significant professional judgment made in reaching those conclusions. 3 things. The first one, nature, timing and extent of procedures, and the result of the audit procedures performed and audit evidence obtained, and significant matters arising during the audit and the conclusion reached. Okay, so next, this one, nature, timing and extent of audit. In documenting the nature, timing, extent of audit, now you have to remember 3 things. First one, identify the characteristics of specific items or matter tested, then who performed the audit and date, and who reviewed and date and extent of such review. Okay, so this first point explain here. Identify the characteristics of specific items, who performed the audit and date of such work was completed, who reviewed the audit work performed, and date and extent of such review. Then this one, the significant matters. The audit shall document the discussion of the significant matters with the management and those who are charged with governance and others, including the nature of the significant matters, and discuss when and with whom the discussions took place. Done. Next one, if the auditor identified information that is inconsistent with the auditor's final conclusion regarding the significant matter, in that case the auditor shall document how the auditor has addressed the inconsistencies. Then, and here they have told experienced auditor, right? Who is this experienced auditor? He is just a simple individual, whether it can be internal, external of the firm, who has practical audit experience and reasonable understanding of audit process, essays and applicable legal and regulatory requirement, the business environment which entity operates, and auditing and financial reporting issues relevant to the entity's industry, and factors affecting the form, content, extent. So here they have asked form, content, extent. Okay, how he has to prepare, and here factors that affects. The first thing is size and Size and complexity of the entity, the nature of the audit procedure, the risk of material misstatement, significance of audit evidence, nature and extent of exceptions identified, and need to document a conclusion, methodology, and tools used. So there are 7 things. Remember, the first one: size and complexity of the entity, nature of the audit procedure, risk of material misstatement, significance of audit evidence obtained, nature and extent of exceptions, and need to document a conclusion, and methodology used. Then examples of audit documents. Simple examples: audit documentation includes audit program, analysis issues, memoranda, summaries of significant matters, letter of confirmation, representation, checklist, and correspondence. Okay, so audit documentation is not a substitute for entities accounting records. Okay, and it may include copies of entities records as a part of audit documentation. Then this one they have asked, so they are not going to ask. Timely preparation of audit documentation, like preparing a sufficient and appropriate audit evidence on a timely basis helps in 2 things. First one, it enhances the quality of the audit and facilities of the effective review and evaluation of audit evidence obtained and conclusions. 2 things it helps. First one, it enhances the quality of audit and facilitate effective review and evaluation of audit evidence obtained and conclusions reached. Therefore, okay. And then documentation prepared after, so it should be prepared on timely basis. Okay, if it is prepared after audit work, no, it is likely to be less accurate than the audit prepared during the time of work. Then audit file. What is audit file? They did not ask, they might ask this time. So audit file may be defined as one or more folders or the other storage media in physical or in electronic form containing the records that comprise the audit documentation for a specific engagement. First one is defined as one or more folders or the other storage media in physical or in electronic form containing the record that comprises the audit documentation for specific engagement. Okay, then assembly of final audit file according to SQC1. It should not take more than 60 days after the date of audit report. Okay, then so this is assembly thing. Now this is an administrative process and does not involve the performance of new audit procedure. So any changes made after the assembly or like during the final assembly process, it should be always a administrative nature. And example for such administrative nature should be these 4 things. First one, deleting and discarding superseded documents, sorting or collating cross referencing, signing of the checklist, completion checklist, and documentation of audit evidence that auditor has obtained, discussed, and agreed with the relevant members of the engagement team before the date of audit report. So you can only make changes in 4 things. First one, examples: deleting or discarding superseded documents, sorting and collating the cross-referencing, signing of the completion checklist related to final assembly, and documenting audit evidence that auditor has obtained, discussed, and agreed with the relevant members. Okay. And after the final assembly is done, the auditor shall not delete or discard the audit documentation of the nature by any nature before it ends the retention period. So retention period according to SQC1, they say 7 years from the date of audit report, and in case of group audit, the date of group audit report. Okay, and documentation of significant matters and related to significant professional judgment. So judging the significance of matter requires objective analysis. Okay, remember, objective analysis of facts and circumstances. And an important factor determining the form, content, and extent of audit documentation of the significant matters is the extent of professional judgment and exercise by performing work and evaluating the results. So higher the professional judgment, higher the extent of audit documentation involved. Simple thing, judging a significance is a matter that requires objective analysis of facts and circumstances, and an important factor that determines the form, extent, and content of the audit documentation of significant matters is the extent of professional judgment. Higher the professional judgment, higher the documentation involved. And documentation of professional judgment helps in explaining the auditor's conclusion and helps to reinforce the quality of the judgment, like reviewing the audit engagement, audit documentation, and carrying out the subsequent event. Okay, so what are the examples for significant matters? Here the result of procedures indicating the financial statement could be materially misstated, or procedures that indicating to revise the risk of material misstatement, and significant difficulty in applying audit procedures, and evidence that could result in modification of auditor's document, auditor's opinion, and evidence that could lead to inclusion of EOM paragraph. So there are 5 things. This is important. Okay, first one, results of audit procedures that indicating financial statement are materially misstated, that indicating risk of material statement exist. To revise the assessment of risk of material misstatement, significance, difficulty in applying audit procedure, results in modification of auditor's document, and inclusion of UM. Okay, 5 things. So this one no need. And completion memorandum or audit documentation summary. So the auditor may consider it helpful to prepare and retain as a part of audit documentation a summary. Sometimes it is known as completion memorandum. Okay. The auditor may consider it helpful to prepare and retain as a part of audit documentation a summary. Sometimes it is known as completion memoranda. So that describes 1, 2, 3, 4 things. The significant matters, how they were exist. The summary may facilitate effective and efficient review and inspection of the audit documentation for large and complex audits. It may help the auditor to consider whether he is able to achieve the relevant individual assess and overall objective of the audit. So fourth thing, why this completion memoranda or audit documentation is prepared, that describes first one, the significant matters identified during the audit, how they were addressed, and that may facilitate effective and efficient review and inspection of the audit documentation. That helps particularly in the large and complex audits. And then it helps the auditor to consider whether he is able to achieve the objectives of the relevant individual assess and the overall objectives. So the last topic, ownership of the audit documentation. Even this is important. The first one, SQC says that unless otherwise specified by law and regulation, the audit documentation is a property of the auditor. Okay, remember. And then the auditor should adopt reasonable procedure for the custody and confidence of his work paper. Okay, so even though it is a responsibility of auditor, so he has to take reasonable procedure for the custody and confidentiality of his working papers. Working paper is also called as audit documentation. Okay, then, and he may at his discretion, at his will, he may make portion or extract from the audit documentation and make available for the client, and provided such disclosures should not undermine the validity of the work performed. Matlab, it should not affect the validity. And next one, in case of assurance engagement, the independence of auditor or his personnel. And in case of company, the main auditor has to consider the report of branch auditor and has the right to seek clarification to visit the branch. Okay, so listen correctly. A company, in case of company, the auditor has to consider the report of branch auditor. In that case, he has a right only to seek clarification and visit the branch, but he cannot ask the copy of working papers. Okay, and therefore the branch auditor is in no compulsion to give photocopies of his working papers to the principal audit. Done. And he make here at his will, it is like otherwise specified. SQC says that otherwise specified by law or regulation, it is a property of auditor, and he should take care of the custody and confidentiality of his working papers, and he may at his will make portion and extract of the documentation and available for the clients, and whatever it is disclosed, it should not undermine the validity of the work performed. And the next one is, in case of auditor's engagement, the independence of auditor or his personnel is taken care. And the next, in case of company, where main auditor has to consider the report of the branch auditor, he has right only to seek clarification and to visit the branch, but he cannot ask for the copy of working papers. Therefore the branch auditor is in no compulsion to give the photocopy of the working papers to the principal auditor. Okay, thank you.